She mixed her wine, corresponding to what is written. God said, let the waters be gathered into one area and let the dry land appear, making water drinkable. Arva Shulchana, she set her table. Vayemelikin Tacha Desha, Asa Mazriya Zera. She also set her table corresponding to what is written. God said, let the earth sprout vegetation, herbage yielding a seed, fruit trees yielding fruit, each after its kind, containing its own seed on the earth. Shochan Norasea Tikra. She has sent out her maidens to announce. What's that all about? That means this is in reference to Adam and Eve. She'itisa HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That listen to this. Now, again, this is Solomon, Shlomo Melech, who wrote Mishlei, and this is how these are psukim from Mishlei, which correspond to psukim in Bereshis. Now, after all this, and God created Adam and Eve, it says, God, he put him. It says he put him on Meroime Keres. He put him on the city heights. This means that the Holy One, blessed be He, raised Adam and Eve on high. What does that mean? And referred to them as godly beings. Right away when He created them. Okay, now He made them godly beings. He called them godly beings. Hadahu deceived. He referred to them as godlike beings. As it is written, there's a pasuk in Tehillim that we say, Ani amarti Elokim atem. God is saying, God gave them one test, and they failed. But before they failed that test, they were godly. God called them. Ani amarti Elokim atem. I said that you're godlike. You are godly. Sons of the Most High are you all. But after all this, you can't. God gave them the ultimate, the highest title and praise. Now we're talking about the first day of creation, but that's how God created them, to be godlike. But He tested them. and they failed. After all this praise, me Pesti Yasser Hena, that's in that pasuk, who is foolish, come to me. Whoever is unlearned, let him turn here. Who is foolish enough to turn away from here? Heina no saying daita shel Kodesh Baruch Hu v'hochu acher daita shel Nachash. God created them holy and called them Ani Amarti Elokim Atem. I set you up and I called you godly, and there wasn't going to be any death. They were going to be eternal as God. But they turned to the enticement of the Nachash, the snake, who incorporates the Sitra Achra, the Satan, the Malchamovis. So this is what they do. The Midrash says it follows. They left the advice of God, blessed be He. They went after the the counsel of the snake. They forsook, turned away from God's will, and instead followed the will of the serpent. That's after all. So Shlomo HaMelech is with that pasuk. You can look it up in Proverbs, and it's in the 9th parak, I believe. Proverbs 9 and the Psukim 1 through 4. And you can look that up. But again, this is the way, comes Shlomo Melech and puts it in his words. And then, but those words are sacred because Shlomo Melech has said that the Ruach HaKodesh, and he's also Mashiach Hashem, the son of David. So that's holy, and he puts it in a number of psukim, and the Midrash comes and tells us what Shlomo Melech meant by that. We wouldn't know by ourselves, because the Midrash is also Biruach HaKodesh. And so they tell us what he meant by that. And so all the things, the way God created the world and ultimately made man, and made man godly, and to quote some psukim here from Tillim, Ani Amarti Elokim Atem, I said you are godly. But this is the world of choices, and foolishly they left the tellings that God told them who they are, what he wanted them to be. But this is the world of choice, and the serpent is the presenter of the second choice. There's choice of good, godly, and bad, evil, animal. And the Nachash represents Satan, evil. But that's the, you have the godly soul, and the nicest way of calling it is the animal soul. But it's the evil soul that comes from the other side, the Sitra Akra. God created a choice and gave man, injected man with a soul. And the soul is the holy soul is always fighting with the evil soul, and that's the name of the game of this world. And that's why when man chooses the godly soul, God is pleased. God created angels. I really don't know why, but I would say they're called administering angels to show perfection. But they don't please God. They don't excite God. Only man who makes correct choices. Man gives pleasure to God. So what happened? Bishvil Kach, if that was the case, they chose the seduction of the snake. Told them, do it, eat from the tree, eat from the tree, eat from the tree. And she did, Chava, and she gave it to her husband. And what did that came? What pasuk did they tell? Ki offer ata offer tashu. You are dust, and to the dust you will return. Hey, you weren't supposed to return to dust. You're supposed to live forever. But because you listened to the accursed snake, serpent, then you'll die. And that in the first few hours of creation. But again, this is the world of choice. And we can bring ourselves to please God. And with that pleasing God, we make for ourselves a dwelling in the next world of, we can't begin to believe the greatness of that second world. But we that's if we make good choices. But if because of the bad choices, man has to die. But you gotta believe to resurrect the dead, and there will be a world of resurrection. There will also be a world of Yemot HaMashiach, which you hope will be soon when Mashiach comes. And then nothing changes. But we're free to do the will of God. We're not subject to any other authority but to God Almighty. And then it says, as the Rambam concludes his Sefer Mishnah Torah, that the world will be full of the knowledge of the Lord, of God, and everybody will only be involved to understand God better and better. And those who labor to understand God while they were in this level of life without the revelation of God, brought about by the coming of Mashiach, and yet they labor to know God, and they learn godliness, and which is the esoteric Torah, the Kabbalah and Hasidus, and they got to know God, and they studied the revealed Torah, and that their position when the Mashiach comes, they'll be awfully busy teaching that to everybody else. And people will only want to know the wisdom of God, because that's the only wisdom that is eternal. Rabbi Yoina b'shem Reb Abba bar Yirmiyahu Pasar Kra Bigog. Hey, this there is another era that will happen right before the Mashiach comes. And that, I think in English they call it Armageddon. And it's Gog Magog. It's not two countries. Gog is the king of Magog. And they'll battle against Israel. And Israel will win. And that's why we don't have to be afraid of Iran. Because I think that they are Magog. And they will battle against Israel. And he brings all these 7 things that he mentioned, that these are things that are applicable to the era of Armageddon, of Gog Magog. Elu Zayin Shonim Shel Gog. They are the 7 years. There will be 7 years in the beginning of Moshe Mashiach that will work like this. Kol Oshon Zayin Shonim Masikin Yidosan Shel Charavos Yidosan Shel Ramochim. Hey, all these 7 years, we will the shrapnel, what was lost. Now they call it in the ancient arms. What are they? So the handles of the charavos. What's a cherev? A sword. The Yisodasan Shel Ramochim, and the handles of the spears. The Yodoseim Shel Sakinim, and the handles of the knives. We will, for 7, we'll have enough from all those weapons. The handles, not the weapon itself. The weapon itself are steel. But we will be able to use the handles of the swords, the handles of the spears, the handles of knives. And V'yatzo Yoshvei Ore Yisrael. This is what that will be in those first 7 years of Mashiach's coming. And all the Jews will return to Israel. That's one of the things that Mashiach has to do. Mekabes Nitrei Israel. So we'll all be going back to Eretz Israel. And then what the wood that we'll need for heating the house, the fuel. V'yatzu Yishvei Ara Yisrael. And the dwellers of the cities in Israel, Ubiaru Vihisiku, they will cause to ignite all their fires, and their heat, they will heat. They will use for heating flames the handles of the swords, spears, and knives with which Gog tries to kill us. But they will, you can apply it to the weapons of today. But we will use the Jews again. We don't have to be afraid of Armageddon, Gog and Magog. That is the war that Gog, Nasrallah, or the other Atollahs that they bring on Israel, hey, with their atomic weapons or whatever, but Israel will overcome them and beat them. And there'll be so much wood that from the handles of the weapons, and it will we will kindle our flames that we need for our heating. Umwagain Betsina, Keshes Ubechitzim, Ubemako Yad, Uberoimach, Ubiaru Bahem Eish Sheva Shonim. We will have enough fuel lost by the Gog, or we could call them the Iranians. They have lost, and all that from there, whatever the weapons are in our time, we will be able to use it in the fueling of our houses. For 7 years, there'll be enough. We won't have to go any place else to get heat. Get it from the weapons that Iran lost in this war, that Gog, in the Armageddon war. Hein part Gamya shel tzadikim la'asri glavo. So I will go review it, and I will Okay, that which in Proverbs, in Mishlei it says, Ado d'chsiv b'chokhmah yivneh bayis. What does that mean? According to the second rabbi who Tana who explains this, wisdom, through wisdom a house will be built. And what does that mean? Chotzva amudeh shiva ela dalet zayin sharim shel Gog. She carves out its 7 pillars. What is this? That's the pasuk says. She carved out, after it said she built her house with wisdom, she carved out 7 pillars. These are referring to the 7 years of Gog. Kol Oshon Zayin Shonim. The Omar Rabbi Yene B'Shem Rabbi Abba Bar Kahana. These are Masikin Dosehem Shel Charvosh V'Yadosehem Shel Ramochim V'Yadosehem Shel Sakinim. For Rabbi Yonah said in the name of Rabbi Abba Bar Kahana, all those 7 years, fires will be kindled from the massive amount of sword handles, spear handles, and knife handles left behind by Gog's army, by Iran's army. It seems to me that is who Gog is. Hadahu d'chsiv v'yatzu Yoshvei Orei Yisrael ubiaru v'hisiku b'neshek umogen b'tzavo b'keshes ub'chetzim ub'makol yad ub'ramach ubiaru b'hem eish Sheva Shonim, as is written. These, then, the inhabitants of the cities of Israel. Now, Israel will survive this war very good. They will win it. This last war, the war of Gog and Magog, it doesn't turn out equal. You know that they beat each other. God forbid. Israel will win it big time. And what will be? Then the inhabitants of the cities of Israel will go out and kindle fires and fuel them with Gog's arrows, Gog's weapons, with shields and bucklers and bows and with arrows, with maces and with spears. They'll get the handles of all these weapons, and they will fuel fires with them for 7 years. And you can find this in Ezekiel 39. That's Cheskel. And you want to learn out about the war of Gog and Magog with Israel, go look in the Tanakh, in Scripture, in Ezekiel 38 and 39. Those are chapters in Ezekiel, and you'll see and look at the commentary, and you'll see. I always used to fear that time when I heard that there'll be this terrible war of Gog and Magog, thinking that it was two nations. It's not. It's one nation against Israel. And the king of that nation is Gog. And that is the Ayatollahs of Iran. That I'm saying. There's no official words of that, but it seems that's the biggest enemy of Israel and America. And these 7 years, that's at the beginning of the Mashiach's coming, when there'll be that war, and these 7 years will be like a pre-wedding feast for the righteous in the future. V'simona de'obed partimaya echo mistusa. And the following saying is a symbol for the situation of the righteous at that time. He who prepares a pre-wedding feast will soon be eating at the wedding feast. So it means who prepares for these period will will benefit from this period. Tivcha, she prepared her meat corresponding to what is written, eat the flesh of the warriors. Vidam, Nisie, Oretz, Tisto. And drink the blood of the warriors. Now that doesn't mean literally, because you're not allowed to drink blood. You're not allowed to eat blood. But it means that they'll be conquered pretty good. And then it says, she also set her tables corresponding to what is written. Save yourselves, shake yourselves at my table with horse and rider. These are expressions of victory against Gog and his country. Again, Gog and his country, Magog. Okay. We will proceed. Okay. So again, what we learned now is what we'll get to how it applies to our Sedron. But this is this pasuk starting with Chochma Bansa Besa, with her wisdom, meaning the wisdom of the Torah. God created the world, so we got one straight prediction that it goes with on the 7 days of creation. Here is another different Tanoim brought different explanations. Chachmas Bansa Beisa Zu Torah. This means with the Torah. He Hadahu Dichsiv Be Hashem Yitain Chachma. In the thing God will give wisdom. Hashem Konani Reishi Darko. Chotzva Amudeh Shiva. This again now she created. She carved out 7 pillars. Now listen to this. What does this apply to? Ela Shiva 7 pillars. What is that? Ela Shiva Sifrei Torah. These are the 7 books of the Torah. Hey, wait a minute. And immediately the Midrash asks this. Hey, isn't it just 5 books of the Torah? Basically, it's twice Vayikra, Bamidbar, Dvarim. How do you get 7? And that's and this Tana says that that's what it means. Chatzva, the Shlema means by Chatzva Amudeh Shiva. She carved out 7 pillars. What is in the first explanations and Pirush? The 7 pillars were the 7 days of creation, the 6 days of work, and the 1 day of rest that God made. In this explanation, the same words are meant, and this is what the Tana says, Chotzva Amudeh Shiva, Ela Shiva Sifrei Torah. These are the 7 Sifrei Torah. But aren't we all aware and that there's 5 Sifrei Torah, 5, like I said, Breshis, Shlois, Vayikra, Bamidbar, Dvarim, 5 books of the Torah. And they answer that Bar Kapora, Ovid for reasons. He says that Bamidbar is actually 3 books of the Torah. And the Midrash says how he shows that. Bar Kapora, and he's the one who says 7 Sifrei Torahs. Chotva Amudel Shiva is 7 Sifrei Torahs. How does he get that? Because in the book of Dvarim, he goes from the beginning of Dvarim, Meresha from Vaydaber, he goes through Vayehi B'Tzorah Ha'aron. We all know that pasuk in Bamidbar. But he makes that till from the opening of Bamidbar till Vayehi B'Tzorah Ha'aron is 1 book of the Torah. In other words, that's the 4th book, and mean Vayehi, from Vayehi B'Tzorah until Ubenucha, when Ubenucha Amar, what it says there in the scripture, is 1. V'ad Sofei Chad, until the end of Bamidbar. No, you have actually 2 from 2 psukim. He makes Vayehi B'Tzorah Kum Hashem Yevutzai Bechel Yenusu V'Parecha Ki Mitzion Tzitvar Yerushalayim Yerushalayim, and the pasuk that comes right after that, and then that's a sefer in itself, he says. And then from that point till the end of Bamidbar is a 3rd sefer. So there's 3 Sforim. 1 sefer has only 3 psukim, where the other Sforim have many psukim, from the beginning of Bamidbar till Vayehi B'Tzorah Ha'aron. And from the pasuk from the pasuk that you have Vayehi B'Tzorah Moshe Kum Hashem Yevutzai Bechel Yenusu V'Parecha Ki Mitzion Tzitvar Yerushalayim, and then Ubenucha Amar, that pasuk, and that's a whole sefer. And then from that till the end of Bamidbar is another sefer. So Bamidbar has 3 Sforim, okay? So you have Bereshis, Shmos, Vayikra 3, and Bamidbar is 3, and Dvarim is 1, which makes it 7 Sforim. So anyhow, you now have in your possession that, in one opinion, Bar Kaporas, there are, based on this pasuk in Mishlei, there are 7 Sifrei Torah. Elo Shiva Sifrei Torah. There are 7 Sifrei Torah. That means, there were a time when the Sifrei Torah were written in individual Megillas. And then they sewed them together in 5 Sforim, Bereshis, Shmos, Vayikra, Vamidbar, Dvarim. They were sewn together and have one called a sefer. But according to Bar Kapora, you'd have to, you'd have to, you would consider those 3 psukim in Borim as a sefer themselves. And you can read what the commentaries say on that in Bamidbar. Now, Tavcha Tivcha, she cooked her meat, Elah Onshim. These are the punishments. Moscha Yena, Elu Kalin Bechamurim Ugzeidu Shabbos. Again, he goes all, this is all in the Sefer Torah, that the whole pasuk applies. That's what is the novel Chiddush of Chotzva Amudeha Shiva. She put up 7 pillars. That's the 7 scrolls. There's only 5 scrolls. 1 scroll, 1 whole sefer, ends by Bihi B'Tzaya Aron, and ends by the end of that pasuk, Ubimnuchama, and then from there is another sefer. Now, I don't think they can't make a Megillah out of 3 psukim, but in Bamidbar, you have 3 Sfarim. According to Bar Kapara, we obviously we don't pass him like that. Orcha Shulchana, she said her table, Eila Ha'arachim. She said her table, Orcha Shulchana. These are referring to the valuation vows. Arachim, you know, if you want to give a offering to the temple, you can I give the value of Shimon. I give the value of Yehuda. What does that mean? Value? How much he's worth? But wait a minute. So the Torah says what the worth of somebody under 20, the worth of somebody between 20 and 60, and the worth of somebody after 60. So the worth of somebody between 20 and 60 is worth more than somebody before 20 or after 60. But that's what Shlomo Melech is referring to by Orcha Shulchana. She arranged. He uses that Orcha for Arachim. That's what Shlomo Melech means. And then we wind up by saying, Al Gape Meroma Akoras, that God put them on the highest levels of the city. Shemar, Ani Amarti Elokim Atem. Now, all of them come back to this, that after God created them, God put them on the highest level. Ani Amarti Elokim Atem. I said you were godly. And so, man, and when the whole world is finalized, and man and woman are created, and they're put on the highest level where God himself says, Ani amalti Elokim atem. I said that you were godly. After all this praise. So the pasuk goes back there in Mishlei and says, Mi pesi yaser heina. Whoever's a fool should turn to me here. Hein hinichu daitoi shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They left their encounter with the God Almighty himself, and they left that. And what? So in the first commentary, he said then they left the opinion and teaching of God, and they went to the teaching of the snake. Here it comes in this series of psukim. They left the counsel of God while God told them that I created you, and the purpose of your creation is to love me and serve me. But no, they left that. Hinichu daitoi shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They left the counsel. The daitoi means the knowledge of God. Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Amru le'ego, and they switched and they said to the ego, Eila le'echa Yisroel. To the ego it said, you are our God. You are Israel, know that this is your God. Hey, what happened? God called you. Ani amarti Elokim atem. I called you godly. And now you turn to a golden calf and you listen to what is said. This is your God, Israel. And what did you get from that? Choser leiv omra lo. Lacking of heart, they were told, Ochen ko adam tamusu. I said you were godly, no death. But you said you had committed the sin of a golden calf, and you accepted what was said to you. This is your God, the golden calf. So, you will die. There'll be death. You will die like men die. That the other Jewish people were to live eternally. Now, again, we come back to this. What was the sin of the golden calf? And I'm studying Torah for already 8 decades, and I can't understand it because only 3,000 people were killed because of the sin of the golden calf at the time. And the great majority of the people didn't sin. What was their sin? That's always brought back in our face. It's stuck in our face. You sinned the golden calf. We didn't. The great majority, 99% plus, didn't. Oh, yes, they did. They allowed it to happen in their camp. They saw it happening. They didn't stop it. Jews can't say, I don't want to get involved. That makes that you yourself did the very same sin. They didn't get killed then, but it's reckoned as if they did the very same sin because they allowed it to happen. And that's a powerful lesson that a very powerful lesson that we have to learn. And that's for both the Jew and Gentile who will keep the 7 mitzvahs b'nei Noach. If you see an individual not living according to the 7 mitzvahs b'nei Noach, a non-Jew, you got to bring him to monotheism, to keeping the 7 mitzvahs. If you see somebody, you're a Jew, and you see somebody who's not living according to Torah in a nice way, you have to turn to them and teach them. You can't say, I don't want to get involved. You live your life, I live my life. It's none of my business. It is your business. If you see somebody sinning, if you saw somebody taking a poison to drink or eat, would you grab it from their hand? Would say, I don't want to get involved? Saving the person's life. And at the Shiur Rambam, we had a celebration at the Israel Synagogue. And last Sunday night, where we celebrated the finishing of the 43rd cycle of learning the Prokim of Rambam, and we could finish it in a little over 11 months. And you make the Shiur, and because when you conclude anything in Torah, you're supposed to celebrate. If you finish a Masechta, hey, call your friends together and celebrate. You finish the whole track. You can make it on any finishing. The Ram, I chose one halacha to speak about briefly about what the Rambam says. The Rambam says when he speaks about sinners, he comes out in the third halacha in Hilchas Mamre, in the laws of rebel scholars, who learn Torah, but they don't give the correct. They don't go by the majority understanding. They have their own opinions, and you're supposed to go by the majority. And all other kinds of rebels and sinners. He said, that doesn't apply in our time, and certainly not in our time, in our lifetime, because these people have a different categorization. They're not sinners, willful sinners. They are like little children who were captured, who were kidnapped by their nannies in the Middle Ages and brought to the convents. And and brought up. That was the greatest thing a nanny could do, was kidnap a Jewish child and bring it to the church, to the convents, and then this child is brought up as a Christian. Now, can you have any claim against this kid for not doing Torah mitzvahs? He wasn't brought up to do. He wasn't taught Torah mitzvahs. He is what is called, and this is the categorization, Tinok Shenikva, a child who was kidnapped. So what's the difference if you actually kidnapped or kidnapped by the terrible level of Jewish education in the milieu, and not brought up to keep the mitzvahs, brought up in secular homes. So the Rambam says you can't punish them. All that applies to sinners doesn't apply to them. And what do you have to do? And the Rambam says this. He concludes the third law in that third parak of Mamrim. He says, therefore, it is the proper thing to do is to bring them in ways of peace, to bring them back to Torah, to authentic Torah, and to draw them with cords of peacefulness. The Rambam said that's halacha. You can't say, I don't want to get involved. You got to get involved when you see somebody not praying to God, not accepting monotheism, or not keeping kosher, or not keeping Shabbos. You can't say, I don't want to get involved. You have to try to get them to like Shabbos, to keep Shabbos. And that's done, and that's what the Rebbe set up, and for our time. But what I want to tell you is that is in a Sefer Halachos. The Rambam is actual law. It's not philosophy. It's a halacha book. It tells you what you have to do. And here the Rambam says, if you see somebody not living a godly life, you've got to bring them in a peaceful way. You can't ban them. Like that ain't going to do any good. You got to find out ways, in peaceful ways, to draw them back to true Torah life, authentic Torah life. And then, that would apply to a Jew not living according to Torah, or a non-Jew not living according to the 7 Noahide laws. Okay, it's 10:30, and I want to say good Shabbos to everybody and wish you a happy Shabbos.
Good Shabbos, Rabbi.
Rabbi Feller?
Yeah.
Before you conclude, I have a rabbinical question for you.
I'll try to answer it.
We have an eclipse coming up on Monday. What is the bracha?
We don't say a bracha over an eclipse. We say a bracha over the sun once in 28 years when it comes to the same place. I don't think you're allowed to look at an eclipse. It's not just because it'll hurt your eyes if you look directly at it. You have to have special goggles. But the sun is like it's a diminution for the sun when it becomes dark. So I have to check that. I'm not poskening, but I think that a Jew is not allowed to look at the eclipse.
Well, no, nobody should, unless you have the very special glasses.
Yeah,
But
that's
there are brachas for things like shooting stars and meteors.
okay, but not for that's called liquid. The sun is being smitten, and there's no we don't make a bracha on a punishment. Or
Yeah.
I have to look into the details of that, but that is what comes to my mind. That
Thank you, Rabbi.
glad
That's
you
good.
asked the question, Dr. Mike. I'm glad you asked the question, but when is this going to happen?
Monday.
This
Monday.
Yeah.
And how is everybody affected by it? That it becomes darker in where, like I know somebody, my nurse, went with his wife to Indiana, where it's supposed to be very most obvious, and to see this, you look at it with goggles. But
he went to
how are we going to be
Indiana,
affected?
there it's a full eclipse. We only see a partial one.
Okay, so but how are we going to know what's happening if we don't look at it? Is it going to get darker in the day?
Yes, it'll be a little darker. But I like your warning. It's a diminution, and we don't say a blessing or watch the eclipse. Thank you, Rabbi.
There's no blessing on it.
Thank you.
To the best of my knowledge, it comes to anybody who's still on. Anybody want to add something to what we said? I want to repeat that I myself would, look in Ezekiel chapter 38 and 39 about this Armageddon. I think that's what it's called in secular language, or and Gog and Magog. It is not one nation is called Gog and one nation is called Magog, and they're going to fight it out at the end of time. No, they're warring against Israel, and Israel's going to win big time.
Yes.
And just from you can come up however you want with what in terms of with the refuse of their armament. The Midrash calls it the handles of the spears, the handles of the knives, the handles of the swords, just the handles, because it's the iron swords and spears, you can't bring a fire out of them, but out of the wood you can, and there'll be enough from what they try to destroy us with. There was enough with that which they dropped. Now you can figure out how that pertains to nuclear warfare.
Yes.
Or warfare today in a lesser nuclear, but from the fuel that we get from what they dropped, from what they lost, we can heat our homes. And he said all the cities in Israel can be heated by what they dropped, what they lost of weaponry. So
thank you again, Rabbi. Thank you so much for the shiur.
We don't have to be afraid of that. Yeah. We will benefit.
Thank you for the shiur.
Thank you for listening and attending, and we'll see you again, God willing, next week. Next week is already the first week in this.
Amen.
All the best.
Yeah, you too, Rabbi. Good Shabbos.
And happy. You still have to be increasing in joy. In fact, more than yesterday and more than all the days, these days when Adar is ending. We have what the Gemara says, Marbim, increase in joy. And God should give us obvious occasions and happenings that we should all rejoice.
Yeah.
So wishing you a rejoiceful Shabbos. And this is Shabbos Mevorchim when we bless the new month. So a very happy Shabbos Mevorchim. And
Amen.
if you say a lot of Tillim, we try to say the whole Tillim on Shabbos Mevorchim before davening. Most of us can't do that. You have to be all, but say as much Tillim as you can. All right. A very good Shabbos, everybody.
Yeah. Amen. Be well. Kol tov.
To you also.